Joining me on this very wet day is a man who's no stranger to driving in miserable conditions. Anthony Davidson, you've driven open cockpit, you've driven sports cars. How does the wet weather experience change between the different disciplines?
Well, I wouldn't say there's much difference in all honesty. You know, besides the terrifying closing speeds you find in sports cars with the different categories all sharing the same track, driving in the rain is, well, driving in the rain. Of course, the biggest difference between the two is the closed cockpit versus the open cockpit. You get the luxury of staying dry in the sports car, but if your screen ever gets dirty, well, that's a pit stop, not just wiping your visor or pulling away a tear off. But most of the time, you know, they're both as miserable as each other, to be honest.
What's going on, aarava here, and welcome back to another F1 2017 gameplay video. Once again, thanks to Codemasters and David Greco for providing the gameplay and the recording to me. We're doing a last question mark challenge effectively here because we're driving as Fernando Alonso in his Mclaren Honda at Singapore to 25% race, full wet conditions for the entirety of the race. So we'll see how far up the grid Greco can get from last place against Ultimate AI as per usual, 110% maxed out on the AI slider. So you saw the intro there with Crofty and Anthony Davidson. Let's get straight to the race then as we go towards 5 red lights, and it's be interesting to see how the traction is on this McLaren compared to the Force India Greco drove at the Spa gameplay the other day. So we go to 5 red lights from P20 on the grid. A little bit of a shaky, slow start, but actually a much better one than the Force India launch, really. And so he goes towards turn 1. We'll see if he can make a place up, maybe even 2. Dive down the inside of both the Sauber cars, goes 3 wide. Ericsson just about squeezes him out, actually, so he has to be a little bit careful with his front wing. Obviously, in cockpit cam, you can't really see the front wing at all, so you have to be very, very careful with that. But he's up into P18. Van Dorn trying to go side by side, just gets squeezed out by Ocon here, so he may be able to squeeze down the inside of him. And Ocon goes for the dive move down the inside of what will be turn 4. I'm pretty sure that is down the back straight now, up into P16. So pretty decent start there from Greco to say it's not even the end of Sector 1. Although, look at that, Ocon barges his way past. Very nice to see, actually, that Ocon kind of actually even makes contact with him as he goes past and getting the elbows out for sure. And then up ahead, side-by-side action with Palmer. And is that a Sergio Perez? Yes, I think it is. So good to see the AI cars going side-by-side in the opening lap. Obviously, lap 1 has always been a bit of a contentious issue in terms of the F1 game. Sometimes the AI just aren't as aggressive as all of us would like to be in lap 1, basically. But good to see, good signs that they're going side-by-side in the opening lap of a full wet Grand Prix. I mean, dry to wet's a different story. I mean, generally from the last few games, sometimes the AI are a little bit more timid in the full wet conditions compared to their counterparts in the dry, basically. So good to see they're going side by side. Very, very aggressive in the first few turns. But we're going to move on now. We're going to swiftly move on because we're just going to kind of show you the main bits of the action. If you do want to see the full unedited version, there'll be a link in the description to the Codemasters version where they'll just show the entire race in full. Obviously here, I'm guessing most of you are here for my commentary on the actual video. So we're going to cut on to the actual interesting part, the actual overtaking. So Greco closes up into, as we go start lap 3, into the first sector. Gets great traction, actually, compared to Ocon there. Has to squirm around a little bit, so it wasn't like it was OP traction for the McLaren versus the Force India car. Obviously, the McLaren car we know from real life is a very solid chassis. At Hungary, obviously, performed very well. So out the corners, it's going to have that better traction, perhaps, compared to the Force India. But Greco, you could see, started to kind of control the car, went opposite lock a tiny bit here, a few little chopping away, a few little chops at the steering wheel to actually control that. But then a very nice move down the inside of Ocon there to finally get that place after Ocon barged past. Then we move on to the very next lap, lap 4, and looks like in the same place here, again, a little bit even more of an opposite lock moment there to control the wheel spin. But again, down the inside, maybe just about feeling breaking through a little bit closer, that move, that one this time round against Palmer. But he gets it down the inside, so Greco looking like he's we found his favourite corner here. But something I haven't actually mentioned so far yet is it's a lot more apparent in this gameplay at Singapore. I think maybe because of the night time and the actual floodlights compared to the Spa gameplay we saw in the Force Indy car. But the spray this year, at least in cockpit cam for sure, I'm not sure if it's a cockpit specific thing, but the spray now in the full wet seems so much better. Like, it's so much more than the standard F1 2016 game was. Like, it looks like an actual challenge to see through the spray. And as we come through, Greco makes a very big dive bomb move down the inside. Caught sign snapping a little bit there down the inside as he goes and moves into sector 3. So very nice move there. And then Valtteri Bottas out of this race. One of the Mercedes cars has a bit of an issue there, so I'm guessing it's probably an engine failure of some sort there. So obviously, I mean, that's nothing new from the 2016 game for cars to have engine failures, but there's Bottas parked up there. Of course, there'll be more of a link now in this year's game to the actual wear, especially going into career mode, obviously. The AI car, we've been told that there is going to be simulation of the AI cars having wear over time on their engine parts, you know, all the little parts that you can see in the heads-up display. So that will add up to them hopefully getting spontaneous or, you know, kind of calculated engine failures according to their wear. And Greco's gone for a little dive here. He's caught Magnussen napping a little bit. Magnussen goes a little bit wayward, a little bit twitchy, and Greco just gets the elbow out in the right-hand side and gets it up into P11 with about halfway through this race. So making very, very good progress in this quote-unquote last to challenge video that I'm going to kind of call it, really, because it basically is from P20 on the grid in the McLaren car. Pretty nice challenge, really, and Greco's going well so far, but Magnussen going very, very slow into turn 1 there, and obviously just saw the opportunity to nip it down the inside, get the nose in there, and then Magnussen did leave the room, so good to see at least there have some spatial awareness, then didn't just chop off his front wing. And then we catch up to Danica Fiat there, and again getting some good traction on the Toro Rosso, so maybe could there be a dive here?
Okay, some information on Magnussen. They have some kind of mechanical problem.
Okay, so from that radio call, looks like there's now yellow flags there, so I'm not too sure, is that Magnussen then pulling up perhaps, or having major issues, as we can see on the top left. Carlos Sainz is overtaking Magnussen on the top left, so maybe Magnussen's dropped back even more, so maybe potentially that is why Magnussen was seemingly just seemed so slow into turn 1, and David was able to just get it down the inside and kind of barge his way through because Magnussen had an issue there. So again, good to see that maybe that was maybe just one of the parts, so not maybe the entire engine like Bottas, but potentially just the gearbox or the internal combustion engine or the MGU-K or MGU-H, or, you know, the electronics just failing, having a bit more of wear than usual, and maybe that sent Magnussen to, you know, go a little bit slower to turn 1, and then eventually, obviously now he's been passed by Sainz. And I don't know at this stage, obviously we can't tell now because there's no mini-map on this gameplay, but I don't know if he's fallen back even more so, but good to see the engineer's going to note on that, and, you know, that's probably just something I'm reading into, but I would like to think that's because of, you know, one of those little parts in the heads-up display that we've seen before in the Spa gameplay failing here. But now we're just continuing to close up on Danica Fiat now on lap 8 and try and see if we can break into the top 10 for the first time now. Getting a bit of time in these corners, obviously sector 3 is going to be a good one for the McLaren guys. And so as we swing on into the next lap, lap 9, actually Greco's going to get a really good exit into this corner. He doesn't actually make the move like he has done on some previous cars, but just gets right up the gearbox of Fiat here, and then in straight line up into Rich Mix, obviously Honda power v the Renault power in the back of that Toro Rosso car, but he's going to actually go for a very, very cheeky move down the inside from quite far back actually. So it looks like in this year's game compared to 2016, much like real life maybe we've seen, you know, from China in the real life season, you know, you have to really go for it, like, you know, Vettel, I'm thinking into the end of sector 1, really dive for the move, and it looks like again here, and from talking to also just some other people after playing the beta perhaps, I think it's going to be a case of you really all have to just go for it, just like they do in real life, and it's going to be tricky to actually pull off the overtake, and you really do have to just be a bit ballsy with the move, with the dive, or, you know, hanging it around the outside or down the inside of a car. It's not going to be like 2016 perhaps, where it was a major slipstream fest. The slipstream definitely does look, from all of the gameplay we've seen, a lot more realistic to what it is like to real life. And obviously in real life 2017 the slipstream was even less than it was in the real life 2016 season, you've got to say, with all the dirty and aerodynamics. Now we've got a lot of yellow flags there. It was Magnussen now out of the Grand Prix eventually, so good to see that eventually with Magnussen's mechanical failures he actually had to go out of the Grand Prix then. So that is definitely confirming maybe to us that Magnussen's issue of us overtaking him then on board with Greco, that then kind of actually trickled down to eventually he had to actually retire. Now we've seen Sergio Perez out of this Grand Prix, so we've only got 17 runners, so nice to see. And obviously a quick race. There's three AR cars out of this race at Singapore, always known to be a very tough Grand Prix for the cars, one of the longest Grand Prix in real life as a whole 100% race, but obviously in 25% races you'd like to think they scale it down a little bit. So as Greco makes another nice pass on the Hulkenberg there, another car into that turn as we go towards the end of sector 1. So yeah, this is only a quick race, so I imagine there's got to be some kind of compression in how they scale up all the wear parts for not only us as the player, but also the AI cars. Now we size up another move down the inside here, down the inside. Massa, very, very close, nice. Oh, he's still around the outside actually, and Greco has to go opposite lock. I think he may have literally just squeezed him a little bit towards the wall there, so nice move there, and Massa did definitely pop a fight. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, trying to say and finish off the sentence, in the quick race I imagine they're scaling, so you can only imagine the career mode then, it's going to be a bit more drawn out, but it's going to be there, and you'll see potentially, you'll kind of notice maybe the cars that have issues. Your engineer will point out, you know, this such and such has got issues with their car. Maybe you'll spot, maybe, okay, the Mercedes car one race is going to have issues if you're driving this Ferrari, or vice versa, and hopefully that'll be a thing that we see, that, you know, you're going to see a pattern maybe form over the career mode aspect if it's, you know, scaled up like this for a quick race, one-off race, obviously. Interesting. We haven't actually seen too much of the heads-up display from our car on board with Alonso. I'm actually quite curious to see. Unfortunately, I don't think Greco actually brings it up ever towards the end of this race with only a lap and a half to go. But we haven't seen yet the wear of the McLaren, because I'm actually quite curious, because there's been obviously a lot of jokes in the comments below, you know, plenty of them about the McLaren. If you do a McLaren career mode, you can be retiring every single race and whatnot. So I'm curious to see what the wear would be like on the McLaren Honda. Obviously, by this point in the career mode by Singapore, you would have liked to think you would have upgraded the car enough to maybe not have so much reliability issues. But I'm very curious to see what the Australian Grand Prix spec of the car would be. That's also another thing. Do remember, guys, there may be a day one patch. We don't know yet. I'm not too sure, but there may be a day one patch. Obviously, you guys will have noticed. I've noticed, and I've told it to you guys. If you're still wondering, some of these cars, all these cars are based off the earlier specs, not the current spec you will see at the next race at the Belgian Grand Prix. So there will be a patch, I'm assuming, within at least the first month to update the cars, hopefully, and update the performances. Obviously, the Williams car may go down a little bit of performance from what it starts off as on the 25th when we all buy the game. But it's going to start off as they were probably at Australia, or just maybe before pre-season, I would say. So you never know. There may be a day one patch. There was one in 2015, I believe. For F1 2015, there was a day one patch. I can't remember exactly if there was one for F1 2016. I want to say I think there was, to tweak it slightly. There definitely was a patch quite early on, within a month. And now you can see another lunge down the inside to the end of Sector 1. No DRS, obviously, but just rich mix there for Greco to get the move done on Romain Grosjean. So again, just showing off, you may really need to make that big lunge now, like they kind of do now in real life, to really make the overtake work, because the dirty air with the new 2017 cars is so much that, you know, you're not gonna have the luxury to get the slipstream. Like, you know, the 2016 slipstream of, you know, Spa, or just pretty much anywhere really, Monza, any track, you know, any track on F1 2016 had that unfortunate kind of unrealistic OP slipstream where you just breeze past them pretty much, even without DRS. So now on this game, as I mentioned, with every gameplay we've seen, doesn't seem like the case. But you can see Sebastian Vettel has won the Grand Prix, so good to see, because I think in both gameplays we've seen so far, it's been a Mercedes car that has won the race. So good to see the Ferrari car now winning at Singapore, and obviously track record. Ferrari have been pretty damn good around Singapore as of late, obviously 2015 being the biggest one, where Mercedes just absolutely did not perform with the tyre wear. You can see another little late dive bomb move on Lance Stroll. Obviously Lance Stroll's AI maybe coded a little bit better there, unable to defend from Greco and Alonso combo. And I think I've got to say, hats off if you're watching, Greco, hats off, mate. You've done P20 to P6 in the McLaren full wet at Singapore at only 15 laps. On Ultimate AI, 110%. That's GG. Just showing off how good of a driver Greco is, really, if you're questioning his credentials here. Obviously, if you don't know, he is the main handling guy at F1 at the Codemasters studios there, so he knows what he's doing, and he's got plenty of practice on the game. Obviously, maybe not a heaps lot, because he's coding the game himself as well for the handling and whatnot. But yeah, pretty damn good showing there for the last question mark challenge, P20 to P6. And then once again, we get another good sight at these the animations and the kind of cutscenes for the post-race celebrations. And once again, like I've said before, to me, it just looks a little bit the edge, that a little bit more crisp. Like, I don't know what it is. I think it's the lighting a little bit and just the graphic fidelity. Obviously, this is running on the PC, I believe. Obviously, the gameplay you're watching right now is 1080p, 60 FPS, but for me this year, they've taken that little bit step up. Just, I don't know what it is. The sheen, the kind of the way the light bounces off, especially here. I'm going to pause it here. Look how sweet this looks. I don't know about you guys, but I love this shot. This Ferrari just looks so nice in this game from this one shot. Like, crisp AF. Just looks so nice, so nice.
The grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
So just wind up there for a little bit, just so you can once again hear the kind of audio from the cutscene and the music. But I'm going to pause it here for a sec and just discuss the race results, because we can kind of like take a little bit of an inkling. Obviously, it's Singapore full wet, so it's a little bit different perhaps to looking at something like, you know, a dry race around Catalonia where the cars actually test, but it's a little inkling into maybe how the car performances are. You can maybe tell a little bit. I don't know. I know a lot of you guys at this point in the comments below in the last few videos have been kind of debating with each other what teams you guys are picking to. Let me know maybe what team you guys are going to be going for in career mode. But getting an inkling here, obviously bar Greco's great drive with Alonso and the McLaren, looking at it, looks like the pecking order, you obviously got the top three. Obviously you would see, apart from Bottas, who had an engine failure, but Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull. Then Williams, as I mentioned, for now they're there as looking like the next team after Red Bull. As I said, obviously in the last 3 rounds in real life, they've really dropped off since Baku. You know, Paddy Lowe being very, very upset with how they've been performing. You know, Lance Stroll said it was a very boring race for him in Hungary. The car just didn't have enough downforce and pace there. I would imagine within a month, hopefully, fingers crossed, they're going to be putting a patch in where they're going to maybe tweak that to push the Williams car a little bit lower, perhaps. Obviously, at the start of your career mode, it will be realistic to, you know, Williams were pretty much there, but then later on, you would want to think, you would kind of want them to move down a little bit. Obviously, that may affect career mode a little bit undesirably, because I remember in 2016, I think there was a patch, and I think a lot of people's career modes got a little bit messed up in a way when the patch affected the career mode you already had. Like it changed the save file. So some of in the performance charts, you just saw a random jump of some teams because of the patch they're putting in. That may be the case again. Obviously, that's not ideal, but there's no other way they could patch the game in like that and not affect your career mode save, if you get what I mean, because there's no way they can save the performances of pre-patch and then also post-patch just because you've got a career mode save. But I would like to think within a month, or hopefully, I mean, maybe they'll prove me wrong. Day 1 patch, maybe, even for the Williams car's performance. But then after Williams, you got the Haas car, Grosjean there, Nico Hülkenberg. So good to see their counterparts. Obviously, Magnussen had the engine failure or retired from the race, but good to see Palmer was so far consistently in all 3 gameplays has been so much worse than Hülkenberg, which is obviously realistic there to what we've seen in real life so far. Toro Rosso is pretty evenly matched, and you got to say, all in all, I guess, obviously Sainz got unlucky in real life, but all in all, pretty realistic there. And as we move on to the second half of the table, you can see then you got Palmer. The Force India lacking a little bit in this race, but you would say the Force India car obviously didn't perform amazingly in Hungary. It still got double points, but obviously the Force India car, the better strength is maybe the kind of engine side rather than pure downforce and chassis. So maybe at Singapore full wet, you would expect them to be this poor with Ocon, and then Perez obviously getting an engine failure there. But as I mentioned again, 3 engine failures there, or 3 retirements, I should say at least. So good to see that they're, you know, in the scaling, it's there. So it bodes well for career mode, because that definitely is one aspect that it's always good to see AI make mistakes, and it's going to be great to see AI actually get affected by the same wear the player is going to get, because otherwise it just feels a little bit unfair. Obviously, you don't want it to be OP and for them to be engine failing so much you're lucking into points every single race, but it'll be good to see, you know, one after the other, you know, race for race, that they'll get engine failures. And then obviously Sauber at the back, as per usual, obviously nothing different from real life. Obviously, you would hope maybe with some strategy wonders, maybe one of those Saubers can jump up. I still remember very distinctly from Season 2 of my F1 2016 career mode, it was Marcus Ericsson winning the damn Baku Grand Prix. It was in the Season 2 career mode I did at the start of the game, so you never know, you never know. But anyway, that's been this gameplay video, guys. If you have enjoyed it and the commentary and found it informative, then smash that like button, guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments below of anything I've mentioned in the video, and as I said, do let me know, maybe at this stage, have you guys decided about what career mode team you're going to be? Obviously, I've said it in a vlog yet, but I just have no clue yet, honestly. I'm still yet to decide, really. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly F1 content. I've been over. Hope you enjoyed today, and I'll see you guys next time.